fantasy football podcast called Living the Stream comes to you each week. Streaming recommendations during NFL season, it's not just tongue-in-cheek. Quarterback, defense, tight end recommendations based on opposition matchup. Here are your podcast hosts, JJ Zacharyson and Danny Carter, living the stream.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Living the Stream. I'm JJ Zacharyson, the late round quarterback, and as always, I am joined this time by my lovely but sick co-host, Danny Carter. Denny, what's going on, buddy?
Yeah, look, there's no two ways about it. I don't sound good. Okay, some people would say I sound like poop, and the reason is because I have COVID-19 for the second time. My entire family has it, and I'm struggling a little bit. But I told JJ before we started recording here, guys, this is my flu game. This is my Jordan flu game. Although I'm not hungover like he was, I'm just sick. I'm gonna get through it, and I'm actually gonna just picture me. Someone needs to Photoshop this. Picture JJ as Scottie Pippen holding me up, dragging me to the sideline during the game.
Look, you had me last week with all my internet issues and me getting cut out. Really the most tilting. And the thing is, the weekend before that, the Saturday before last week's show, I had a migraine for the first time in like a year. I get them every once in a while. And I get like the sort of like the migraine hangover brain fog for the next like 4 or 5 days, basically.
Wow.
And so last week, I wasn't 100% mentally and cognitively there. And then I had all the internet issues. And everything was bad last week for me. So I got you. This is me getting you back, having your back, and making sure that this show goes on and is strong.
Show's got to go on. The people need their content. I take the content creation seriously. You know, I did the Roto World football show. Let me tell you, Sunday was rough. I will say Sunday was rough because I had onset, the onset symptoms where I was like, with every illness, whether it's the flu or COVID or whatever, you have a moment, and the moment is, shit, like I'm sick. There's no like I'm shaking for no reason. Like I feel hot and also cold, that sort of thing. My son brought it into the house, no fault of his own. He actually knows where he got it from. He said some kid was coughing horrifically at school, and the kid coughed right in his face. So he was like, that's how I got it. I said, well, it's good. Hey, you tracked it. We know where it came from. We can get revenge on that kid eventually. But he took a nap on Sunday, and me and my wife said, oh God, this is not good. So we're going to get through it like we always do, but woof, it was rough on Sunday.
Yeah, I knock on wood, haven't had it in 14 months. And like I said to you before we started recording, when I had it, it was really more of, I felt, a little bit run down and stuff, but I knew that I was sick just because I wanted to take a nap for 2 straight days. And that's when I was like, okay, like I'm not feeling perfect right now. Who's also not feeling perfect right now is the poor woman that was broadcasted to the world on multiple occasions during that Chargers-Cowboys game last night.
Right.
For those of you who didn't see, there was a point in time where the Chargers were marching down the field. They're down by a touchdown. Justin Herbert throws a touchdown pass to Gerald Everett. And right before that play at the goal line, they cut to her, this fan who was sitting in the stands, and she was a nervous wreck to the point where it looked like it was bad acting. That's the only way to describe it, right?
No. Listen. I saw your post, by the way, where you showed that everybody was using the GIF or using the video of this lady being like, come on, that thing. And I said this morning, I said, guys, listen, it's LA. There are no Chargers fans. That person was a paid actor. I'm sorry. But Tom Pelissero from NFL Network came out and debunked it, said, no, she just loves her Chargers, which is somehow sadder. I don't know. I mean, the lifetime of pain that this lady has been through as a Bolts fan. I will say this. That's not how people usually celebrate. Okay. You don't, I'm sorry. You don't stand there alone and scream your head off. You turn, you high five, you hug, you embrace. you have some interaction with the other people around you. Okay. And she was having none of that. I still am skeptical. I will be honest.
But here's the thing, Denny. They're in LA and they're Chargers. They don't know how to be football fans.
That's true. That's true.
So to use the argument against you of them or anyone who obviously I'm just playing around here, but to use the argument against you, the reason she's reacting in that way is because she is a Chargers fan.
Right. But she knows how this goes as a Chargers fan, by the way. She knew that Gerald Everett scoring that touchdown was essentially meaningless. Like they were not going to win that game. Come on.
Yeah. Did you see Matt Harmon's tweet at the beginning of the game? So I can't remember who was he. I can't remember who he quote tweeted.
I don't remember.
But he said that the game was going to end 20-17 with a missed field goal at the end.
No, really?
Yeah. So it was a very, very
wow.
Yeah, he's a prophet. That young boy.
Yeah, the Chargers do everything they can to lose, and you gotta respect that. By the way, Dylan Tyler in our comments says that this Chargers lady, was interviewed on the Pat McAfee show today. I'd be interested to learn more about that. And I guess I'm off. Okay, I guess she's a real fan. I guess weirdly she's celebrating stuff by herself with other people around her, not having any interaction with them, including her husband, who was apparently there. Come on. It was strange.
Yeah. So by the way, it was Hayden Winks who sent the original tweet that was like something along the lines of like, we're all excited for this to be a shootout. And hopefully we get something out of this. And then, Harmon then responds in that way. And it was almost exactly correct. It was very close, but the Chargers instead threw a pick at the end of that game instead of missing a field goal at the end of that game. I have a question for you, since this is like, you have COVID and you're not afraid of throwing hot takes out there, but probably even more so now you don't care about anything.
Oh, yeah. Let it go.
What do you think about Justin Herbert as a real NFL quarterback?
I think that Justin Herbert is a coach and offensive coordinator killer, much like Kirk Cousins. I think that there's just enough there for people to come in and say, I can fix this man. I can fix him. I can make him work. And he's going to have, honestly, a guy like Justin Herbert, he's like 23 years old, 24 years old. He's going to have maybe 9 offensive coordinators in his life, and they're all going to be fired because he does the same thing no matter who's on the team. He just checks down constantly. Like, this guy is not going downfield. He's not making the difficult throws. It's just not happening.
So you think he's extremely overrated is what you're saying?
Not extremely, but definitely overrated. Where do you stand?
I think that he's a little bit overrated. Yeah. I think that the tools are there for him to be very, very good, but here's the other thing. What's really funny is that on my 15 transaction show before week one of the transactions was to buy the Chargers passing attack because their first 4 weeks of the season were their matchups were unbelievable. I mean, they were so good. And so, I was buying into, a Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, if you wanted to, what have you. And then on that show, I said that I wouldn't be shocked if after week 4, people were talking about Justin Herbert in the MVP conversation. That would have happened if the Chargers had just won games, right? If their defense just wasn't playing so pathetically and whatnot. And so I do think that Herbert would have been more sort of squarely in that MVP conversation. And then, he faces a defense like Dallas, and he's just not that elite quarterback. He's just not the guy that I think some people want him to be. I still think that he can evolve and become something bigger, but, I don't want to go so far to say that he's like a bust. I don't think that at all. But there is definitely a contingent who believe that Justin Herbert is like a legit top 3 or 4 quarterback in the league. And I think that's just a little bit too much.
So we have someone in the mentions here or in the comments saying, who is his downfield threat? And look, that's on the Chargers, buddy. That's on, like, they didn't get him a downfield threat. He still doesn't have that. I mean, Mike Williams to an extent, but Mike Williams doesn't separate. Like, everything is just like 50-50 balls. Like, if you can even call them that. The only deep threat Herbert has ever had is Jalen Guyton, who is, I guess, still with the team, maybe. But
yeah, well, they obviously are trying to do that with Quentin Johnston, and he's just not been. It's not working. And I get the argument of like he hasn't had the right supporting cast around him, et cetera, et cetera. I don't fully disagree with that notion, but we're evaluating based on what the information that we have, right? I mean, there's like literally every quarterback is a system quarterback at the end of the day, right? Like every we can say Brock Purdy is good, but he's even better because of the system that he's in, the weapons that he has. You can still evaluate without or with that in mind, right? By sort of removing these pass catchers and these weapons and stuff from the equation. But yeah, I mean, I think that he might be a little bit overrated by some, but the tools are at least there. That's my take.
He also has the look, just Herbert.
He has the look.
He's a big, good looking white guy with the hair and whatnot. Very like relaxed demeanor, team first guy. So the media is going to love Justin Herbert forever. Okay. And the thing is, though, he's not under the sort of pressure that a Dak Prescott is under because no one cares.
Right.
Like no one cares about LA. No one cares about the Chargers. So, and everyone cares about, let me tell you, I've turned on a lot of sports talk stuff during this season, just walking around the house. JJ, the only thing they talk about is Dak Prescott.
Oh, I know. It's just it's Dak. Like ESPN is the Dak channel. That's all they do is talk about Dak.
What is going on? Like there's other things to talk about. We can like the Dolphins never. Then no one ever says anything about the Dolphins. The Bills, no. The Chiefs only in the context of Taylor Swift. Okay, but we get to hear about the Cowboys constantly. Every game is excruciatingly analyzed within an inch of its life. It's exhausting.
And all the analysis on Dak is horrific. Like none of it is like LaShawn McCoy, which hail to Pitt for the record, but LaShawn McCoy is sitting there and all he does is say that Dak is like his analysis is literally Dak is trash. That's literally what he says. That he's just bad. And there's nothing more, nothing deeper. It's okay to say Dak is pretty good. Can we just say that? Can we just say that Dak Prescott is a pretty good quarterback? Is that fair?
I think he's fine. He follows in the tradition of Tony Romo, right?
Sure. I mean, Romo's better, I think, than Dak. But I think that Dak is far better than what the narrative says about Dak.
Right.
That's my general take.
I forgot that you're a Romo guy.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge Romo apologist. Yeah. Romo's probably a top 25 quarterback of all time.
Well,
is 25 fair? I don't know. If 25. That's off the dome.
Fair.
I've never done like quarterback rankings all the time or anything.
I know. You know what though? He was unfairly for him. He was stuck in a really wretched system for a while there with Jason Garrett. So that was tough.
My thing with Romo that always annoyed me. People definitely listen to this show to get our Tony Romo takes. My thing about Romo that always annoyed me was the he wasn't clutch narrative when literally every fourth quarter and overtime number favored Romo to not only be like above average, but be one of the most clutch quarterbacks of all time.
The analytics said that Romo was very clutch, but he did fumble a field goal hold.
He did
one time. So there was that.
Speaking of really quick, the analytics stuff, have you noticed that? And I tweeted about this last night. I said, if you're a boomer, I quote tweeted a Pro Football Talk tweet. So you don't have to comment on that.
Yeah.
But
thank you.
Yeah, you don't have to say anything about that. But I quote tweeted it and I said, because it was about analytics. Florio was tweeting about analytics. And my tweet was, I'm fairly certain at this point that boomers have to tweet about analytics twice every 5 days. Like there has to be something about analytics that they tweet that's definitely going to be anti-analytics, but they have to tweet something about it because they're contractually obligated to do so on X, on Twitter. And it's happening so frequently. Everything is blamed. By the way, you have COVID right now. It's because of the analytics.
You're right. The analytics say I shouldn't have COVID, but
I
do. I saw another post about analytics, not a PFT thing, but where they said analytics, this is very funny actually. Analytics doesn't know who's on the field.
Yeah,
and
right. That was the Lombardi thing. Yeah.
It's the only way you know who's on the field is through the information gathering that teams do. Amazing take there.
The thing that also, really quick before we finally move on, the thing that also really annoys me about the analytics conversation is that people don't understand the difference between data and analytics. They think that they're synonymous, but
Right.
analytics is the full comprehension of what the data is saying, and the data is just the data. And so when people look at numbers, they often say, "Oh, the analytics are saying," no, those are just straight up numbers. Like when we say this guy has X number of yards, that's a data point. That's not analytics. Analytics is when you distill that and make that into something bigger and better and greater, and you're actually analyzing what those numbers mean.
Yeah.
And there is just a constant misunderstanding of what analytics actually is.
Troy Aikman had a doozy last night. We'll move on here in a second, but Troy Aikman said, it doesn't matter where you are on the field or what's happening. The analytics will say, go for it. And Troy, if you're listening, that is absolutely not true.
No,
the analytics often say, kick the field goal. It often says, punt the ball. It doesn't always say go for it. It says go for it in very certain circumstances where you should be going for it to increase your chances of, I don't know, winning.
Yeah, fairly certain he said that right before a 4th and 1 when Dak Prescott took it up the gut and scored a touchdown too.
Yes, he did. You're right. He did say that. And you know what, though? We didn't hear about analytics after that.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, when you get owned by analytics, you stop talking about analytics.
Oh, it's so funny. Every time the Dolphins lose, the pundits are like, like analytics is over.
Yeah.
Like, so the Dolphins won this week, so I guess it's on again.
Yeah, they have like this historically good offense, and when they lose, it's because of analytics. It's just insane. It's crazy. They're running the equivalent of a 75-year-old playing running back, and he's having the greatest running back season in the league right now, maybe aside from CMC. And really you get Tua coming off of all the controversy and stuff. They have no number 3 weapon. It's literally 2 wide receivers, and they're so good at what they're doing that people need, they're fumbling for reasons to figure out why they're as good as they are, and they just have that as their scapegoat.
We need the Dolphins to keep winning. That's what
we do. We need the Dolphins to keep winning, and honestly, we need Dak to keep winning.
We do,
because it's hilarious whenever people when Dak gets W's. All right, let's move on to what happened last week. We had Sam Howell as a streamer. He scored 18.3. Baker really disappointed at 6.8. Derek Carr had 16.3, and Josh Dobbs only had 10. So pretty mediocre week at quarterback. But honestly, it was a pretty mediocre week at quarterback across the league, aside from what the streamers did. Logan Thomas only had 1.2. He was probably the most disappointing player on the show from the show last week. In terms of actual production, just 1 catch in that game. Dawson Knox had 4.7. Honestly, a little bit disappointing there too. I just don't think Dawson Knox is very good.
He doesn't command the targets.
No. You had Atlanta scoring 5. You had the Raiders scoring 9, and you had the Vikings scoring 21. So pretty good streaming defense week last week, especially with the Vikings doing what they did against, obviously Justin Fields didn't play that whole game, but he was still first play of the game, he got sacked. Like he was still taking sacks. He was still doing Justin Fields things.
We had a sack base floor going.
Yeah, we did sack base floor. All right, let's move on then to week number 7. Denny, why don't you kick things off?
With a quarterback. Yes. Yeah. Sam Howell, we're back on Samuel G. Howell the 4th against the Giants. Giants are pretty good matchup, for everybody, because they're just pretty bad on defense. Giants are allowing the 4th highest yards per attempt this season, and they are a slight pass funnel. And we have Washington as the second only to the Chiefs in pass rate over expected. Eric Bieniemy really airing it out. So this is an ugly game, ugly environment in that I think it's a 39-point total between the Giants and Commanders. But Sam Howell, if they're going to score, I think they're going to do it through the air. So we do have a floor situation for Howell at least.
It's really not a great it's really not a great slate in general. So the low scores, I'm not overly concerned about. But yeah, I think Howell makes a lot of sense. I think of the guys we're talking about, because I did my rankings before the show this week, he's my number 1 ranked of the 4 that we're talking about. And spoiler alert, we're actually talking about the exact same 4 that we talked about last week. It's the same exact quarterbacks that we talked about last week. All right, I'll move on. Derek Carr gets Jacksonville on Thursday, so you got a Thursday night game to worry about. That's probably a downgrade. I want to do a real research article on Thursday Night Football this offseason and like have like real good, firm data instead of the narrative side of things, with Thursday Night Football. Sure. But there is the narrative side of things with Thursday Night Football. I also worry about this Trevor Lawrence injury. I know that he was practicing today with like a knee brace, but I worry about, is he going to go? Let's say that he does go. Is he going to be 100%? Probably not. And Lawrence hasn't even been that good this year. Like really good this year.
No, he hasn't.
So that's a problem. That game only has a 38.5 point over under. Jacksonville as an opponent has been pretty average in terms of adjusted fantasy points allowed. The one thing I want to say though, with Derek Carr, let's say that you're in a league where you are not able to make a lot of transactions, or you're in a league where you want to limit your transactions for whatever reason. After this week against Jacksonville, over their next 3, they get the Colts, Bears, and Vikings. So you get 3 straight really good games. And also Derek Carr right now, based on his yardage total, should have 3 more passing touchdowns than he actually has. That's just based on just regression. And his touchdown rate's only 2.5% so far this year. So that's also a number that should regress a little bit forward towards a better mean. So I think that Carr and the passing attack has better days ahead. I just don't know if this is the week where that all comes to fruition and hits. I think you're much more likely to see that happen against the Colts or the Bears over the next, or even the Vikings over the next 3 weeks. But Carr to me is like a mid-range QB2, given the environment this week at quarterback.
Also, the Jags are a pretty extreme pass funnel, so you might have that going for you if the game gets going back and forth, or if the Saints fall behind here, he could have a lot of volume on his side. I have Baker Mayfield against the Falcons. Another really just a hideous total. You're right about this slate. This slate is ugly.
It's horrible.
38.5 total between Atlanta and Tampa. So the Bucks basically don't have a running game. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. They just literally don't even try anymore because Rashad White is not doing it, and Keyshawn Vaughn is not doing it, and Sean Tucker has been launched into space, I believe. So they're over there. The Bucks are over their expected drop back rate in each of their past 3 games. I think that points to them kind of, doing the same thing going forward until they can establish it to some extent. The Falcons are neither a pass nor a run funnel. Every stat I looked at for the Falcons, it's just like they're right, like smack dab in the middle.
It's very average. They're 17th in adjusted fantasy points allowed a quarter. I mean, it's just a very average matchup.
And honestly, I think we'd be way more excited about Baker if things had broken a little differently last week. He missed like 3 or 4 touchdowns last week.
Yeah, he was very, very close. I mean, there was the one, like Evans almost had a huge touchdown. I mean, there was 90
yards. It would have been 90 yards.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I mean, Baker, I think, let's just be real here. I think that there's probably a little bit of just general regression coming in terms of just how well he played to start the year. Denny just sneezed as I was saying that. Fortunately, he was able to hit the mute button on the mic. But yeah, like I think there's some regression that's coming. Like I don't think that Baker, I don't think Baker is going to be this year's Geno Smith to the degree that Geno Smith was Geno Smith last year.
Yeah. And someone, Matt in the comments says, "God bless you." No religion here, Matt, but thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, so we got Baker. The last guy. I'm kind of intrigued by the last one. It's Josh Dobbs. We streamed Dobbs 2 weeks ago, and he didn't run the ball like at all. He had like -1 rushing yards, but in 4 of his last 5, he's hit 40 yards rushing. So that's basically an extra touchdown, passing touchdown, depending on your scoring. He saw 47 rushing yards this past week. He's had back-to-back stinkers, if you will. I wrote that in my notes that he had stinkers. And it was against 2 defenses that were plus matchups and adjusted fantasy points allowed. So he hasn't really been someone who we can easily say in these easy matchups, you're going to do well, and in these bad ones, you're not going to do well, because he's been good against Dallas and San Francisco and then bad the last couple of weeks against the Rams and the Bengals. They have a very low total of just 18.5, but Seattle is a top 10 matchup in adjusted fantasy points allowed. So I think that you could go with Dobbs, if you're in a pinch, because the rushing upside is still there. There is some juice. James Conner being out, they could throw the ball a little bit more toward in the red zone. And then Seattle's a good matchup, and there could be a negative game script, and maybe we see some scrambling and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't necessarily result in touchdowns, which is why we see the 18.5 point total, but could still accumulate into a nice fantasy day.
By the way, talking about the Cardinals, Marquise Brown last week against the Rams, 190 air yards, led all pass catchers in that category, 34 real yards. So
yeah, that was rough, dude. My Apex team last week, I had like David Montgomery, Puka Nacua, Marquise Brown. I had every underachiever known to man. I scored the least amount of points in the league this past week.
But you know what? Regression's on your side now, brother.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, let's move on to the tight end position. Denny, why don't you kick things off?
Yeah, so Taysom Hill is still tight end eligible, and that makes more sense now because, hey, he's actually operating like a tight end, like a traditional tight end in this offense, this Saints offense, at least for now. Like, this is the thing. We don't really, you can't really like project this guy's role going forward week to week very reliably, right? But last week in week 6, Taysom Hill, 63% route rate, 17.4% target share. He had seven catches for 49 yards and 1 rush for 2 yards. Like, that's just wild to me. Like, I guess he's taken over the Juwan Johnson role. I don't know what's going on there.
It was weird. It was really weird. I mean, he basically was playing. I mean, he was just playing a traditional tight end role then last week.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that some of that with maybe some rushing mixed in, maybe some passing, you never know. They might get crazy. Pete Carmichael is insane right now with Taysom's package. Taysom's package is bigger than ever. So you could do worse. I tend to start. So I actually have him in like deeper leagues where you have to start a bunch of flexes, and I feel pretty good about throwing him in there.
Yeah. Luke Musgrave, I feel really good about this week. Denver's been awful against tight ends this year. It's the best matchup in adjusted fantasy points allowed. They've allowed a tight end 10 performance to Logan Thomas. Cole Kmet had a tight end 1 performance. Tyler Conklin was tight end 12. Travis Kelce, tight end 1. It's a bad defense. We know that. Denver is not good defensively. Musgrave is averaging a solid 17.4% target share per game in completed games, because remember he had that concussion a couple weeks ago. So I think Musgrave's probably the most solid play on this list this week.
Yeah, I could see that. We would like to see him obviously command some more targets, but whatever. So Gerald Everett plays Kansas City. You would think that the Chargers will be playing from behind here, could fuel some pass volume. His profile is not sterling, as you may know by now, because he's largely splitting pass routes with Donald Parham, and Donald Parham is seeing a lot of the inside the 10 work. I know that Everett caught that touchdown last night that made the Chargers lady lose her mind. But, beyond that, he really is like a very touchdown dependent option. If we could condense Everett and Parham into one player, man, that would be fun. Like that would be like a plug and play tight end 1, but you're just kind of hoping for a touchdown with Gerald Everett.
Yeah, you're hoping for a negative game script and a lot of passing for him against Kansas City. Kansas City's been good defensively this year.
I know.
That's a huge problem for both their offense and Mahomes taking advantage of like these really good matchups, but also, just the opposition, getting a lot of fantasy points. They're just not getting them because Kansas City's defense has been good.
It's maybe like one of the more important fantasy storylines of the year is that the Chiefs defense is good and they don't have to be good on offense anymore.
Yeah. Let me just read you their ranks in adjusted fantasy points allowed, according to my numbers. So they're 29th. They're the 29th best matchup for quarterbacks. So they're a bottom 5 matchup in terms of like being advantageous. They rank 30th against running backs. This is how advantageous they are, right? 30th against running backs, 25th against wide receivers, 21st against tight ends, and 27th as an offense against an opposing defense, right? So they're not a good team that you want to use a defense against. It's crazy. I mean, like they've been really, really solid defensively, and then the offense has also just been good. So definitely not what we'd like to see. Another tight end who's been really good the last couple of weeks is Michael Mayer. He saw a 10% target share and a 19% target share over his last 2. The Raiders started the year with by far, they had like a 5% target share from weeks 1 through 4 with their tight ends. And now it's been like 21% over the last 2 weeks. And then they get Chicago this week, and Chicago's been the 8th best matchup for tight ends in adjusted fantasy points allowed. So Mayer, obviously someone that you want to add off the waiver wire. just in general for like long-term upside. I mean, he was a good prospect. My model liked Musgrave just a little bit more as a prospect, but Mayer was basically like 1 percentile lower than Musgrave. So he's definitely someone to keep an eye on.
I hate that it took this long for Mayer to overcome Austin Hooper as the
I mean,
tight end one.
it's crazy though, because they just weren't using tight ends. Like they literally
right.
and I don't know if this has had a direct impact on Devontae Adams, but the wide receivers have seen a dip now in target share over the last 2 weeks of about 9 percentage points, which, obviously, and the running backs have seen a little bit of a dip too, but there's only 100% of a pie. This is what I always say. People always say that,
right.
that vacated targets aren't a thing and all, and I don't disagree with that, but there's 100% of a target share. And when one position is getting more of it, that means the other positions aren't getting as much of it. And that's what we're seeing in Vegas right now, at least over the last 2 weeks.
That's analytics, folks.
Yes. All right, we got one more. You wanted to add Jonnu, right?
Oh yeah. Adding Jonnu Smith. Forgot about him. Yeah. So the Falcons are targeting their tight ends at the highest rate in the league, 40% right now. 40% of the targets are going to tight end for the Falcons. That's pretty wild. So here you have just the box score hunt. I know. Look, I'm not grinding the games, the Falcons games, but I will tell you that over, let's see, wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games for Jonnu Smith, at least 4 catches in each of those. He has at least 6 targets in every one of those. So in a week where Kyle Pitts got there, sort of, for fantasy with a touchdown, Jonnu Smith also got there. So I think that they're both fantasy viable week in and week out.
Yeah. I will throw out there that Tampa Bay, I don't know what they rank in terms of regular fantasy points allowed to tight ends, but they are the second worst matchup in my adjusted fantasy points allowed. So the matchup might not be as good as we want, but you're right. I mean, they're seeing almost 40% of their targets go to tight ends. I mean, Jonnu's been very, very solid. And of all of the adjusted fantasy points allowed numbers, I care least about tight end.
Right. And Sam Laporta ran cold last week against these Bucks. 11 targets. He caught only 4 of them. So
yeah, which is probably why some of the numbers look the way that they do.
Right.
Because it's adjusting for how good he's been, throughout the season. It looks like the Bucks are 28th without adjusting. So, they're not a great matchup, even when you don't adjust, but they're even better when you factor in the opponent.
Hey, the Falcons, there was an article on ESPN today where Arthur Smith kind of sort of conceded that they might not just be able to run the ball all the time. So we could have that going for us. We could have a Falcons team that's not consistently 20% under their expected pass rate, which would be nice.
They've had more dropbacks than rush attempts in each of their last 4 games, Denny.
Let's go.
That happened 3 times in all of 2022.
That's so good for Drake London. I mean, Drake London's like an elite play. Well, as long as that continues.
Yeah. And I need that to happen because the people really gave me a lot of S after his week 1 performance. All right, let's move on to defenses. I'm going to start with the Commanders against the Giants. I don't really care who's playing quarterback for the Giants. I still think the Commanders are a good play. Yeah. The Giants are now the best matchup in adjusted fantasy points allowed. They're dead last in sack rate allowed. They're second to last in pressure rate allowed, or second. And you guys get the idea. Washington defensively is 12th in pressure rate, 11th in sack rate. This game has an over-under that's under 40. Washington's a 2-point favorite. I think Washington makes a ton of sense. They could end up seeing 5 or 6 sacks in this game, realistically.
For sure. I have the Raiders. Let's see, at Chicago. So no one wins in Chicago, folks. I'm kidding. But man, this game is really ugly. So this game actually opened at 46.5. It is down to 37.5 as of this recording. So
wow,
really hideous. Because, folks, Justin Fields is doubtful to play. Tyson Bagent, is that his name?
Yeah, I think it's a long A.
Bagent? Yeah. All right. Yeah, Tyson Bagent is going to get the start. And he's going to go up against a pretty decent pass rush for the Raiders. I mean, come on, you don't need a big reason here. You stream the defense playing Tyson Bagent. That's all.
Right. Buccaneers against Atlanta. Atlanta's actually been a good matchup for opposing defenses this year. They've given up 4+ sacks in 4 of 6 games. Tampa Bay's been a top 10 rush defense this season by rushing yards over expected per rush. They've been just a little bit below average against the pass, but that could dictate a more pass-heavy script for Atlanta, which would be good for the Bucs defense. 38.5 point over under. Bucs are 2.5 point favorites. The process.
Absolutely. And then if actually, I meant to ask you this before the show. The Colts play the Browns. So if Deshaun Watson plays, the Colts are probably off the table, correct?
Probably, but I think that you could still, desperation make the argument.
Okay. Well, look, PJ Walker was horrific last week against the 49ers. I know that they won. I get that. Good for them. Whatever. He was bad. He almost gave away the game like 3 different times. Very inaccurate. So I feel okay about starting the Colts if PJ Walker starts. If Deshaun Watson starts, not as much.
And then I got the Packers against the Broncos. Packers are 1.5 point favorites. The over-under in this game is a little bit higher than the other ones that we're talking about, but Denver's now the 6th best matchup for defenses and adjusted fantasy points allowed. Green Bay's defense actually is top 10 in pressure rate, and they're 11th in EPA per dropback allowed. So the Packers defense hasn't been that bad, overall. And so just given the matchup, given how poorly Denver's offense has played, I think the Packers make some sense. So to recap, we have the Colts, Packers, Bucks, Commanders, Raiders, Jonnu Smith, Taysom Hill, Michael Mayer, Gerald Everett, Luke Musgrave, Josh Dobbs, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, and Sam Howell. The other thing I want to throw out there, do you think Aiden O'Connell is pretty interesting against Chicago if he ends up going instead of Jimmy G? Or so like, I know that Brian Hoyer came in, but I think the theory behind that is that you don't want to throw a rookie in the middle of a game where they don't have any prep. Whereas if he gets prep this week, then he would obviously, because I mean, the last time this went, like, he didn't play that poorly against the Chargers, and he was their starter. So I would assume that he could be the starter again this week. And if that's the case, I think that I think that he's at least in the tier with the other guys we talked about.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, he was not bad. Against the Chargers. I'm actually looking for the PFF grade for who are they playing? The Bears. Yes. The Bears are 5th worst coverage unit. So hey.
Yeah, I mean they've been the 6th best matchup for quarterbacks and adjusted fantasy points allowed. I'm just throwing it out there. I think that he's a good deep sleeper this week.
I'll go with it. Hey, let's do it. We're on the AOC bandwagon, and I'm not getting political, folks. That's what they call Aiden O'Connell. That's what the kids are calling him.
That's right. All right, let's go to Twitter for some questions. I'm actually going to get Diego's question in here first. It says, which is in the YouTube chat. It says, for the question segment, what do you guys think of Brandon Staley's beard?
So it's funny he mentioned this because my dad called me last night specifically to say how much he loved Brandon Staley's beard. And I don't know. I liked fresh faced just Brandon Staley, and I feel like he looks haggard and sort of worn out now. I don't know. I don't like it.
See, he's one of those people that when they get a beard, it looks fake because he's like got kind of the baby face, like he looks young, that kind of vibe. And when those people get beards, it takes a really, really long time for that beard to not look fake. Like you got to get used to that beard being on that body.
I don't know. I feel like, why does everyone have to have a beard now?
I don't know. I mean
literally everyone has a beard.
Everyone has a beard. You're right. Everyone has a beard. Do you remember the 90s people? No one had beards.
I mean, even 15 years ago, like not every single dude had a beard. Like it's the golden age of people who shouldn't have beards having beards. I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean the real problem out there is when people just can't really grow beard. They just grow patchy beards and they refuse to recognize that they can't grow a beard, and they still just do it.
I mean, you and I could have enormous, luscious beards.
Yeah, we could have pretty good beards. Yeah,
I'm sure you could. You're a hairy dude.
Yeah, I'm a hairy guy.
I am too. I know it doesn't look like it, but if I didn't shave for like a week, I would be unrecognizable. I think I would be hideous. My wife has wanted me to grow like a Father John Misty beard for years.
Wow. Like
Yeah.
she wants that.
She desires that.
Wow. So the other thing too, though, if you were to do that, you'd probably have to do something else with your hair too,
You would think so,
right?
but
Like you got to really even it out a little bit. You can't have like a
yeah.
really crazy, like, although some guys can pull it off where they have like really nice hair and they do their hair up and stuff with the big beard. But I don't know. You'd probably have to figure something out to really work together.
So I'm torn on that look where someone has like a huge Ryan Fitzpatrick beard. Well, no, Fitzpatrick is a good example because Fitzpatrick keeps his hair nice and kept up.
Yeah, but he's not. He never has like wet hair, right? Like
no.
wet gelled. Like he has got out of the shower, dried it a little bit, maybe combed it, or maybe like directed it a certain way, but nothing that, no part or anything like that.
Right.
And but I know what you're talking about because there's a lot of people who have. I mean, this is like the IPA look, right?
Right.
The I drink IPAs is a big beard, often bald, but if not bald, then you have the side part.
You're right.
It's the IPA look.
I think, and I'm trying to be sensitive here, but I do think that guys tend to grow insane beards like the second they start losing their hair up top.
Probably.
And I get what's going on, but I also wonder if there are other things that you could do besides growing a beard down to your belt buckle. The second you start losing a couple hairs off of the temples of your head.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, I think that if I lost my hair, I would probably want a thicker, because I always have like just like stuff, just like a little bit going on here.
Yeah.
But I think that if I was losing my hair, I would want, because I wouldn't want to have this like Mr. Clean look.
Okay. Yeah. No, I wouldn't either. That's true. That's true. I mean, so it seems like there are two avenues for guys who like lose all their hair. There are two avenues. You grow a huge beard to compensate, or you get jacked.
Jacked. Correct.
Those are the two avenues. Those are the two avenues that you have to choose from. And so you have to respect that.
Some would say one of the biggest motivators to go to the gym is to lose your hair.
Right. Well, I get. I mean, because it's a compensation issue, and I get
it.
That.
I get it. It makes sense.
I understand it.
Yeah, I can totally understand it.
If I completely lost my hair, I would probably lose like 30 pounds and just be ripped.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna go to actual Twitter now. That was just a YouTube comment. This is actually from last week, but it's from @2HighSafeties. It says, if you could have any drink on tap in your house, what would it be?
Wow, man, that's a good question. Do you have an answer to this?
Well, here's what I'll tell you guys what I drink. Okay. This is literally what I drink: water, chamomile tea, a lot of chamomile tea. I drink at least 2 or 3 cups of chamomile tea every day because I'm like an 85-year-old man. And it's very calming, right? It's just it doesn't put me to sleep like it does to other people, and it's just a very like calming, relaxing. I like to get a nice tea before I do shows because it calms me down a little bit. I like to get a chamomile tea before I dig into my spreadsheets and be a nerd. So I drink chamomile tea, and I also have been drinking more Gatorade Zero.
Yes, God, I love Gatorade Zero.
It's really good. Especially you cannot drink it not cold. It has to be cold. It
has to be real cold.
Yes.
Honestly. And so it's like diet Gatorade basically. So actually I'm not kidding. Like less than a week ago, I bought 100 little packets of Gatorade Zero.
Oh, you did? So you do the packets and then you pour them in? Is that okay.
Right, because I was trying not to go broke on Gatorade.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I haven't gotten to the point of like Costcoing, or Amazoning this new upset. Like it's probably a 2-month-old thing for me with Gatorade Zero. Like a refreshing, maybe once a week kind of like drink it while I'm watching football on a Sunday, or like if I had a long run or something like that, and then I go that route. Yeah.
Oh, but in the summer I was drinking like 3 a day.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there, is what I'm saying. I'm inching closer to more and more Gatorade Zero. But I think that the blue one that they have, I can't remember the exact because they have the stupid flavor names. Gatorade does.
Yeah, I forget what is it called. Iceberg, melting ice cap.
Yeah, it's not the pure blue one, but it's the one that's like a little bit faded blue, right? It's like
yeah,
diluted it with something. That's my fave. That would be on tap for me. I don't drink enough alcohol to put alcohol on tap. It just wouldn't be worth it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking the same. For me, it would be lime polar seltzer. I think would be on tap. If I had to choose an alcohol, I know what it would be. Man, this is low T as hell, but I'll say it anyway. It would be grapefruit White Claw.
You're a grapefruit guy with White Claw?
Wait, are you not?
Grapefruit's not that good.
No? What do you
No,
like?
I'd probably say my favorite White Claw is lime.
Oh, yeah, I do. I love lime. I do love lime.
And then because it's some of the White Claws, though, like I do like the watermelon White Claw, but you can't have more than 2 of them because it just gets too sweet and too much. Like that's why the lime one is just very refreshing, and it's just you could drink a lot of it.
I tend to love the grapefruit. Why do I love the grapefruit so much? I don't even like grapefruit.
Speaking of 85-year-old men, good lord.
Yeah. And check this out. I got this the other day. Polar grapefruit. So.
Oh, there you go. So so you're a big grapefruit guy.
Apparently.
I think grapefruit's one of those flavors that you like more and more as you age, and since you're old, that's why you like grapefruit.
Yeah, if I had a tap of that, whoo boy, I would drink 2.5 of those in a hurry. Let me tell you.
We had the lamest answers for that question.
I mean, wait, what do people want? Like triple IPA. I want it to come out as sludge.
Yeah. I mean, like if I could handle it, I would love like a chocolate milk tap. But my body would die. I couldn't have chocolate milk all the time. You kidding me?
Oh my God, it really would. You would cease to be.
That would be the worst thing imaginable for my body. Would be chocolate milk.
Oh man,
you can't be doing that.
Speaking of this, I heard I was watching the Dolphins game on Sunday, and they said, Raheem Mostert struggles to keep up his weight. He has to eat like multiple high calorie protein bars every day to keep up his weight. And I was like, man, F you, dude. Like, yeah. I'm a 40-year-old dad, like watching every single thing I eat. Like if I eat like one piece of pizza, like it's over. Like that's like 3 pounds instantly.
Yeah. And back in your 20s, anyone listening to this who has not reached their 30s, in your 20s, you could get away with out exercising a bad diet, right? Yeah. You can't do that anymore. Like you can exercise, but you will still gain weight if you have a bad diet.
It doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter how hard you actually. I've tried running more, biking more, doing all this stuff. It doesn't matter. Like if you eat the pizza, it's over for you.
Yeah. Yeah, my philosophy, over the line, I don't know if you heard, but I am a gluten, dairy, and soy free. My philosophy with obviously eating well is good, right? Is good for you. But if you are trying to like keep a figure or something, that's like you're going to do that in the kitchen. And if you're going to exercise, you're doing that more for your body's like longevity and being able to function and do well. It's not really like you're going to necessarily get super, super, super lean by only exercising. You need that kitchen component with it.
I mean, look, I'm eating carrots with my hummus lately. I mean, it's awful. My goal is really, JJ, never to eat anything that tastes good, and I think that's you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. Well, when you don't eat anything that tastes good, you don't desire anything that tastes good. So you get into a good cycle. Next question at Justin White VA: who is the stone cold worst quarterback you could see still crushing it in the Niners system right now? Did we answer this one before? I don't think we have.
Sorry. Stone cold worst quarterback who could crush it in the night.
I have the answer. It just came to my head.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yes.
Mason Rudolph.
What? Really? You think
Mason Rudolph would be fine in the 49ers offense? He would do it. He would be fine. Just ask Mark Cabali. He loves himself some Mason Rudolph.
Bro, that is terrible. I'll say Mike White.
Mike White's probably a better answer than Mason Rudolph. Although
is Zach Wilson a Hall of Famer in that system?
Oh, in that system? In that system, he's close. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Justin has another question, says, watching the woman at the Chargers game getting so elated after the Chargers scored on 4th and 1 sent me into an existential crisis where I asked myself the question I will pose to you. Is there literally anything in life that will send you into a similar joy-filled seizure?
Nope.
Nothing. Have you ever been that excited about anything in your life? Like anything?
I think I used to watch Dolphins games like that when I was 10 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember being at Heinz Field watching the Steelers and like literally just being like talking to like, like the crowd's going nuts and me standing there just being like, come on, Ben. Come on, Ben. You got this, Ben. Come on.
That's right.
Like that. So I understand, her feeling that way. I can't imagine feeling that way as a 35-year-old right now.
Trying to will something into existence.
Right.
I can't relate. I will say 2 summers ago, my son was on the swim team and he was leading a race, 25-meter backstroke. And he pulled into the lead with about half the lap left. And I was kind of going nuts. Like I started jumping up and down. I started racing to the other end to try to greet him there because I didn't have any expectations. It was his first race. So he actually ended up winning, which was very cool. So that was the closest I've come, but that's my own kid. So you know what?
That was my reaction to this question was like, it's more for kids. Like I remember when because Avery started riding a 2-wheel bike at like before she turned 3. Like it was crazy. Like she did it very, very early. And it was a shock when she did it because who expects your kid that early to ride a 2-wheeler bike. Right. And so I have a video I'd posted on my personal Instagram. I remember I had a video of Avery riding her bike up the hill in our neighborhood, and she's literally riding without the training. She didn't have any training wheels or anything, and she's riding it, and she's just giggling while riding up the street. And that put me in this couldn't stop smiling, laughing, like just elated state, right? Sure. But I think that as a dad, those states of mind come more in like an emotional, like a crying emotional, like tears in your eye emotion, as opposed to the celebratory. As opposed to putting your fist together like you're gonna take a dump or something.
Or oh god, oh geez.
It's not that. It's more so like I, for instance, I'm an assistant coach. I'm an assistant to the head coach of Avery's t-ball team, right? And we are now throwing little soft tosses to the kids instead of them using the tee to see if they can hit off, the coach instead of using the tee. And Avery, the first game that we did it, I was like, there's no way Avery's gonna be able to do that. And she got a hit like the very first time that she tried. And I was just so happened to be playing catcher at the time, catching the coach's little tosses. And in that moment, that's when, you get that like feeling of like, you're just bursting with joy, but it comes out more in like a teary-eyed, like, just like this weird emotion takes over you. It's not like this celebratory jumping up and down kind of feeling that woman showed at that game.
That jubilation. By the way, Josh in our comments says, you're assuming this lady was sober. And that's actually a great point. Look, I've been to LA a couple times and not much sobriety going on there. I think Josh may be onto something. This lady may have been altered in an altered state. And you know what? Hey, good for her. She was she was high as a kite at a Chargers game, and she is now famous. So she has that going for her.
Yeah. I mean, look, she didn't ask for it. I hope that she's okay with it. I hope that she's okay being a meme because she's going to be meme for the rest of football season.
She is. It's just so weird, JJ, that she wasn't celebrating with anyone, that it was just her. I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's a little interesting. It's a little bit, but they did zoom. Are we sure that it was just her? I mean, I know that she was jumping up and down like alone and stuff. But
alone.
Yeah.
It just doesn't pass the smell test. This is a psyop.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe it's not a psyop. I don't know what the point of the psyop is, by the way. I have no idea, but we're going to learn eventually.
Right. Yeah, we'll figure out whenever the documents get released in 50 years.
Yes.
Next question. At Tiniest Banana, is there a more getting old moment than the random don't even know how ankle injury?
Yeah. Yeah. Or I'll tell you what, another one is when you're running and you know what a hamstring feels like.
Mm,
Like I didn't like back like 10 years ago, not 5 years ago, I didn't know what a hamstring injury felt like.
yeah.
But now I know exactly when it's coming on, so I just stop. I just stop running when I feel it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but you know, hey, look, maybe it's not so bad, JJ. Maybe being more aware of your body and its
Right.
frailty, maybe that's okay.
Part of the problem with exercising for me is that the worst part of exercising is stretching.
Oh
It's
God,
it's
stretching.
it's the absolute worst part, and it's the thing that you need to do, and I'm very bad at it, at doing it pre and post. And it's a problem for sure. It's gonna be a problem, especially when I get older. The only thing that I'm starting to notice, because I haven't had many like random wake up, I'll wake up with like a random like because I'll sleep with my arm kind of underneath my pillow, on my side and stuff, and I'll feel it in my shoulder maybe a little bit the next day. I'm starting to feel back shoulder blade stuff going on,
Really?
like just upper back kind of need to stretch that out a little bit to feel but I haven't had like ankle and stuff haven't had that issue before.
I actually had my kids try to stretch out my hamstrings the other day by I was like laying on the ground and I was like, okay, I bet you cannot straighten my leg and push it back. And they couldn't. They couldn't. My legs are so tense and inflexible, JJ.
That's pretty that's you might want to go get stretched out by like a PT or something.
I would die. I would die from pain. I would instantly just pass out.
You going to a PT is the equivalent of me drinking chocolate milk.
I did. You know what? Okay, I actually did. I had a upper back thing like 4 years ago, right before COVID. I went to a physical therapist, and they worked on the wrong part of my back.
Oh man.
And I kept saying but it's here. Oh, we know. So they had the electrodes and all the other stuff hooked up, but it was up to another part of my back. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's the process, and I don't understand it, right? Maybe that's just how it works. Like
Maybe this is their but it could be their Nick Foles week 3. You have no idea.
and it was because I eventually talked with like the head PT person, and I was like, hey, it's this part, it's the very upper part of my back that's been hurting me, and your people were working like 8 inches below that. And he was like, what?
Have you gotten massages before?
Oh yeah, it's horrible. I hate it.
Horrible. So
Just
how many times have you got a massage in your life?
maybe 3. It's too
Okay.
much. You got to relax. You do not press on my back until it's purple and bruised. That's I should sue you.
You're gonna sue the masseuse for doing their job?
It's too hard. That's too much pressure.
You can tell them to just tickle you if you want to.
I don't need you to lay on top of me with your elbow in my back grinding away. I don't need that.
I haven't had a massage in about 3 or 4 years, basically since the pandemic started, and I'm now realizing that I need to go get one. It would actually be great if I had like like if I had a place that I went and I like knew the masseuse well or something like that, and I could like live stream while like myself while getting a massage. I feel like that would be great content.
Oh yeah, but definitely not.
Give
My kids
answer
Go ahead.
start stick questions while getting a massage. That's not good content.
I mean, the whole massage thing is, as my kids would say, super sus.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of baggage that's associated with massages.
The last time I went to a masseuse, I'm almost positive there was another service offered at the end, and
Yeah.
I wasn't understanding the language, and I was like, no, I'm good. You loosen me up. I can go now.
Yeah.
You don't need my credit card again.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Next one is from @1punna. This will be our last one this week. It says, if someone lets you into the lane while driving, do you wave in the rear view mirror or stick a hand out the window to wave?
I'm not sticking my hand out.
Yeah, I mean, especially if your window's not down. That's a lot of work to say thank you.
No, I mean, I appreciate it. I'll say hello or thank you from the rear view or the side view or something. But
Yeah.
I'm not doing all that. You kidding me?
Yeah, look, I am a very, very strong advocate of waving as much as possible in the car, to neighbors and to anyone who's helping you out. Like, to the point where I think I've told this on the show before. I remember distinctly in our old neighborhood, my wife and I were driving. I was driving, she was in the passenger seat, and we saw a neighbor that I didn't even know, right, walking down the street with like their dog or something, and they were on Amanda's side, right? So I had to wave, and it was like an exaggerated wave, and I like reached my arm across, like hit her just to give a wave to a stranger that I didn't even know. Right. I'm a very, very strong advocate of waving. Now what that means is when someone is someone who's kind on the road, you better be waving. Right.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
This is the equivalent of putting your grocery cart back in the little area where the carts go, the cart return area.
Absolutely.
You need to wave to people, similar to holding the door open, all of that. Like, you need to do those things. You do not need to stick your arm out the window and make a big scene. You can just give a little, maybe even if you can make eye contact, if you somehow are passing them at some point, just make sure they know and that you appreciate what they did.
I mean, sometimes I will drop back, open my window, and give a handshake to the person while we're driving. So just side by side, I'll reach through the passenger side window and thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
I'll just stick my fist out, hoping for a fist bump, and if they don't, I just start screaming at them, "Give me a fist bump! Come on, give me a fist bump!
You jerk!
Come on!"
Yeah, no. Someone is saying in the comments that I might be one of the worst drivers in fantasy football, and this is because I don't back into spots.
Yeah, I don't back into spots either.
But apparently, if you don't back into spots, you are a reckless and dangerous driver who doesn't mind running people over. This is.
They have rear cameras now on every freaking vehicle.
Yeah, my suggestion would be just don't be careless when you're backing out of a spot.
Yeah. By the way, I will challenge any fantasy football analyst to a parallel park off, and I will be better than them.
Well, you would beat the hell out of me. I'm terrible. Did I tell you I lost my license because I didn't have it renewed during COVID?
No, you did not.
Yeah. So JJ, I had to take the 16-year-old test.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did back in 2021.
Was it hard?
I almost flunked because of the parallel parking.
Oh yeah, because Pennsylvania's a parallel park state too. Not every state I think has the parallel park section to it.
I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I have to do this.
Well, where we took our driving test, I had like a driving instructor and stuff, before and whatnot, and they would tell you, because like you could practice in the parallel park area for during off hours, and they would tell you when to cut the wheel when your car was lined up with the bakery that was right there. And so you just had to follow those instructions to do it. But the reason I'm really good at parallel parking is because I went to Pitt. Hail to Pitt. Anyone else who went to Pitt understands this. It's in this area of Pittsburgh called Oakland, and Oakland has the worst parking imaginable. And so you're just constantly fitting your car into these smallest places possible. Right. So I got really, really good at parallel parking because I lived there for 4 years.
We had the same thing in Maryland. Real quick, and I know we got on the show here because I feel like I might die at any moment. But my dad had practiced with me when I was 16 to get my license, and he knew that I was such a lousy driver that he took me to get my license on Christmas Eve at 3:00 in the afternoon because he knew the MBA employees would be in a good mood, would be in a generous mood.
Wow.
And it worked, JJ, because I should have, for all intents and purposes, failed that thing, except for the guy who was like, "Merry Christmas, you passed."
Have you gotten in a lot of accidents?
No.
Okay.
No.
You're not that bad of a driver.
No. I'm not a bad driver. I actually am very safe. But as far as like parallel parking goes, not the best. In fact, my wife will be like, "Hey, do you want me to do it? You want me to get it?"
Oh no.
And I'm like, look, I can stand for a lot of like being feminized. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I cannot be emasculated in this way right now. So I'm gonna give this a shot. And if I don't, then I'm gonna just drive the car off a cliff. And that's my other option.
Well, the most embarrassing thing on planet Earth is when you try to pull into the parallel park spot and you got to pull back out because you didn't cut it at the right time.
Well, you got to leave You got to leave at that point.
Yeah, you can't even stay there.
You got to go.
Well, there's sometimes at daycare drop off where, there's like two lines, right? And so, parents are getting out of the car to take their kids in, and then the car is just sitting there. So there's a lot of just like empty spots in these two lines. And so when I'm parking my car there, sometimes I have to parallel park. It's a high stress situation because literally everyone in the daycare, at the front desk, and the people walking out, they're all watching you. And the problem too is that you can't just leave, right? Because you got to eventually take your kid in there. Everyone knows who you are. So fortunately, I don't have to worry about that because I am good at parallel parking. But it would be a stressful situation if I was not good at parallel parking.
Yeah, imagine being bad at it. You can't.
I can't. Imagine being bad at parallel parking. Just imagine. Hey, do you remember when people were bad at parallel? Can I just say as an aside, the absolute worst tweets on that site and on fantasy football Twitter. And I know that I'm probably, I'm someone who did this too in the past, and what I'm guilty of it. But it's when people say, remember when this group of people, right? However they say it, people or analysts, what have you, thought this thing, which is clear. That thing is clearly the wrong thing, right? Yeah. And they say the remember, as if that person sending that tweet has never gotten anything wrong in their life. They're just alienating 50% of their audience by sending that tweet.
It's so annoying. And it's so unoriginal. It's so unoriginal.
It's so unoriginal. And I know that I'm guilty. I'm sure I've done it in the past. I'm not saying that I haven't, but I've consciously tried to not do it over the last, few years at least. All right. We need to, sorry, go ahead. Do you need to say something or do you want to go? Because you need to rest.
Yeah, just real quick. Diego said, I need a car that parks itself. Look, I don't believe in that witchcraft, so I'm not getting one of those.
All right, Denny, you need to rest. So why don't you let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, at CD Carter 13 on the X platform. And you can find me on Blue Sky as well. You can find my regression files piece on Wednesday on RotoWorld.
I'm sorry, I just read TC Patter on YouTube said, this is such a throwback, but they said Mike Davis normally does the family driving for because as people might not be aware, Denny and his wife are in a throuple with Mike Davis.
Mike Davis, yes.
Yes. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at LateRoundQB, all my stuff over on LateRound.com. Denny, hope you feel better, buddy. Hopefully next week you'll be 100%. But thanks for listening, everyone, and we will catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to Live in the Stream. We hope you enjoyed the internet podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes now. It won't take long, it's fast. For more fantasy football info, check out
LateRound.com and NBC Sports Edge.
Hope you come back soon as we share about the teams and as we live in the stream.